I stood outside my childhood home on Christmas Eve, wearing a thrift store coat and carrying a fake damaged purse, while inside my family celebrated my sister's CEO promotion with a $500,000 salary. They had no idea I owned a company worth $1.2 billion. Have you ever wondered what happens when the people who think you're a failure discover you're actually more successful than they could ever imagine? My name is Aria Bennett. I'm 32 years old, and what I'm about to share might change how you think about family, success, and revenge. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe and drop a comment telling me, have you ever let someone underestimate you just to see their true colors? Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. The front door opened before I could knock, revealing my mother Victoria in her best holiday dress. Her smile looked practiced, the kind reserved for unwelcome neighbors. "Aria, you made it," she said, stepping aside without offering a hug. "Everyone's in the living room. Natalie just arrived from the office." I shuffled inside, adjusting my deliberately worn coat. The house smelled like cinnamon and expensive wine. Extended family filled the space, their voices creating a warm buzz that immediately quieted when I appeared. "Look who finally showed up," my father Gregory called from his leather recliner. "We were starting to think you couldn't get time off from the bookstore." Aunt Helen approached with her signature concerned expression. "Aria, sweetheart, we've been worried about you. Living alone in that tiny apartment, working retail at your age." "The bookstore keeps me busy," I said quietly. "I'm grateful to have steady work." "Steady work," Uncle Marcus repeated with a chuckle, swirling his bourbon. "That's one way to look at it. When I was 32, I was already running my own accounting firm." Cousin Diane materialized beside him, her real estate success evident in every piece of designer jewelry she wore. "Speaking of success, wait until you hear about Natalie's promotion. $500,000 a year. Can you imagine?" Before I could respond, the sound of heels clicking against hardwood announced Natalie's entrance. She swept into the room wearing a tailored navy suit, her engagement ring catching the chandelier light. "Sorry I'm late, everyone," Natalie announced, accepting kisses and congratulations. "Conference call with the board ran over. You know how it is when you're making decisions that affect hundreds of employees." She finally noticed me standing by the coat closet. "Oh, Aria. I'm surprised you came. I know family gatherings aren't really your thing anymore." "I wouldn't miss celebrating your success," I replied quietly. "Congratulations on the promotion." Natalie's smile turned sharp. "Thank you. It's amazing what happens when you set real goals and work toward them. Brandon and I are already looking at houses in the executive neighborhood." Her fiancé Brandon emerged from the kitchen, wine glass in hand. "We're thinking something with a home office and guest quarters. Aria, you should see the properties we've been touring. The smallest one is 4,000 square feet." As the evening progressed, I overheard my parents talking quietly in the kitchen. They didn't notice me standing in the hallway. "Are you sure about tonight?" my father asked. "It seems a bit harsh." "She needs a wake-up call," my mother replied firmly. Natalie's success highlights how far behind Aria has fallen. Maybe the intervention materials will motivate her to make changes. Everyone's committed to it. We can't enable her mediocrity forever. My stomach clenched. This wasn't just a celebration. It was a coordinated attack designed to break down what little confidence they believed I had left. They had no idea they were about to humiliate someone who employed over 3,000 people and had built a technology empire from scratch. After dinner, my father stood and tapped his wine glass. "Before dessert, we have some special presentations to make." Uncle Marcus retrieved a gift bag from the closet. "First, we want to properly recognize our newest CEO." He handed Natalie an elegant wooden plaque engraved with her name and title. The family erupted in applause. "And now," my mother said, her voice taking on a different tone, "we have something for Aria as well." Aunt Helen approached with a much larger bag, her expression radiating forced cheerfulness. "We know you've been struggling lately, sweetheart, so we put together some things that might help." Inside, I found budget planning workbooks, discount store gift cards, and employment applications for entry-level positions. "We researched opportunities that might be good fits," Diane explained. "There's a receptionist position at my real estate office. The important thing is taking that first step," my mother added. "You can't keep drifting through life without a plan." Natalie leaned forward, her voice taking on a patronizing tone. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. My new position comes with authority to hire an executive assistant. The salary wouldn't be much, maybe $30,000 a year, but it would give you structure and purpose. The family murmured approval, praising Natalie's generosity. I clutched the gift bag, forcing tears into my eyes. That's incredibly generous, I whispered. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Uncle Marcus encouraged. Natalie's offering you a chance to be part of something successful. Brandon cleared his throat. Actually, I might be able to help too. My law firm handles networking events. I could introduce you to some contacts. You'd need to work on your presentation, maybe update your wardrobe, but there might be opportunities for someone willing to start at the bottom. His eyes lingered on me in a way that made my skin crawl. I realized his offer came with implications that had nothing to do with professional networking. After the intervention presentations, the family migrated back to the living room. Natalie settled into the center seat, accepting continued congratulations on her pregnancy announcement and professional achievements. Tell us more about this CEO position, Uncle Marcus requested. What kind of company is Synergy Tech Solutions exactly? Natalie's eyes lit up. We're a technology consulting firm specializing in data analytics for large corporations. My promotion puts me in charge of our biggest growth initiative ever. That sounds impressive, Diane said, but what does it mean in terms of revenue? We're positioning ourselves to become a major player in the enterprise technology space, Natalie explained. And I'm about to close the biggest deal in company history. We're talking about a partnership that could double our annual revenue overnight. What kind of partnership? My father asked. Natalie paused dramatically. Digital Nexus Industries. The name hit the room like an explosion. Everyone began talking at once. Digital Nexus Industries? Uncle Marcus repeated, immediately typing into his phone. Good Lord, Natalie. Their market valuation is over $1 billion. $1.2 billion actually, Natalie corrected with obvious pride. They're one of the most successful technology companies in the country, and they chose Synergy Tech as their exclusive consulting partner. Diane whistled. I've read articles about Digital Nexus. They're incredibly selective about business relationships. How did you get their attention? Professional networking and reputation, Natalie explained. Word gets around when you deliver exceptional results. Digital Nexus's team reached out specifically because of projects I've managed. Brandon continued researching on his phone. Listen to this. Digital Nexus Industries, founded 8 years ago, specializes in proprietary software solutions. Annual revenue exceeds $400 million. Headquarters in downtown Chicago. $400 million in annual revenue, my father repeated. Natalie, this partnership could transform your entire career. I sat quietly in my corner chair, sipping coffee and absorbing every word. They had no idea they were discussing my company, my employees, my revenue streams. The irony was almost overwhelming. What do you know about Digital Nexus's leadership? Aunt Helen asked. Brandon read from his screen. The founder and primary owner remains anonymous, but business publications describe them as a visionary entrepreneur who built the company from nothing. Most articles focus on Digital Nexus's innovative solutions and company culture. Anonymous ownership is smart, Uncle Marcus observed. Keeps the focus on business results. I respect that approach. Natalie nodded emphatically. Exactly. Digital Nexus operates with incredible professionalism. Every interaction I've had with their team has been polished and strategic. When do you finalize this partnership? Diane asked. Tomorrow actually, Natalie replied. Christmas Day. The Digital Nexus team wanted to meet before the new year, and I wasn't about to let holiday timing interfere with this opportunity. Brandon found another article. Digital Nexus has donated millions to literacy initiatives and educational technology programs. The company has donated over $15 million to educational programs in the past 3 years. Philanthropy is usually a good sign, Grandmother Claire commented. Companies that give back tend to be ethical business partners. As they continued discussing Digital Nexus's business practices and community reputation, I marveled at how close they came to understanding who they were really talking about. Every charitable initiative they praised, every business decision they admired. I had personally designed and implemented those programs. The meeting location is a bit unusual though, Natalie added. Instead of Digital Nexus's main headquarters, they want to meet at some subsidiary address downtown. 327 Oak Street. My blood ran cold. 327 Oak Street was my bookstore's address. Oak Street. Diane mused. That's downtown near the Arts District. Interesting choice for a tech company meeting. As the family continued speculating, I realized I was facing an impossible situation. In less than 24 hours, Natalie would arrive at my bookstore expecting to meet with Digital Nexus executives, completely unaware that her despised sister owned the company she was so desperate to impress. Christmas morning arrived with snow beginning to fall. My family gathered for breakfast before the Digital Nexus meeting, conversation focused entirely on Natalie's afternoon appointment. I barely slept last night, Natalie confessed. This meeting could change everything. You look perfect, my mother assured her. Professional but approachable. The family had decided to attend as a show of support, positioning themselves as evidence of Synergy Tech's strong local connections. Everyone wore their finest clothing. Aria, you're still planning to meet us at the bookstore? Uncle Marcus asked. We'll need someone familiar with the neighborhood. I'll be there early to make sure everything is ready, I replied. At 1:15 I watched from my bookstore window as my family's cars pulled up. Natalie emerged first, followed by my parents Brandon, Uncle Marcus, Aunt Helen, Diane and Grandmother Claire. I unlocked the front door and greeted them with the same meek demeanor I'd maintained. Welcome to my workplace. Natalie looked around with polite interest. This is charming, Aria. Very cozy. Digital Nexus probably chose this neighborhood because of its authentic community atmosphere. Where exactly are we supposed to meet these executives? My father asked. According to the address, it should be this exact building, Natalie replied, but I don't see any obvious entrance to technology facilities. I took a deep breath. Actually, there might be something you need to see. I walked to the back corner and pressed a concealed button hidden behind classic literature volumes. A section of bookshelf swung inward, revealing a modern glass door leading to a sophisticated office space beyond. What is that? Diane gasped. Executive offices, I replied simply, stepping through the hidden entrance. The family followed me into a sleek conference room furnished with cutting-edge technology, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and walls displaying Digital Nexus Industries awards and certifications. A massive curved desk dominated the far end with multiple monitors showing real-time business analytics. This is incredible, Brandon whispered. Digital Nexus built executive facilities behind a bookstore facade. Brilliant security strategy. I moved behind the executive desk and activated the computer system. Multiple screens illuminated, displaying Digital Nexus Industries dashboards, financial reports and operational summaries. Aria, we should probably wait outside, my mother said nervously. This is private corporate space. Actually, I said, settling into the leather executive chair, I think it's time we talked. Something in my tone made them all turn to look at me directly. I am the Digital Nexus Industries founder and COO you've been researching and admiring, I announced calmly. This is my company, my office, and my meeting with Natalie. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. That's impossible, Natalie whispered. I opened my laptop and displayed Digital Nexus's corporation documents showing my name as founder and primary shareholder. Then I pulled up bank statements, business licenses and regulatory filings dating back 8 years. Aria Chin Bennett, I read from the legal documents. Founder and CEO Digital Nexus Industries. Personal net worth approximately $1.4 billion as of December 24, 2024. Uncle Marcus collapsed into a nearby chair. This has to be some kind of joke. No joke, I replied, accessing my executive calendar showing months of scheduled meetings with Fortune 500 companies. I've been running Digital Nexus since I was 24 years old. Natalie's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror. You've been lying to us for years. I haven't lied about anything, I corrected. I own the bookstore where I work. I've simply never corrected your assumptions about my success. Why would you let us believe you were struggling? My father asked. Because I wanted to see how you treated someone when you perceived them as having no money or social status, I explained. Last night's intervention demonstrated exactly the kind of people you really are. Brandon pulled out his phone and began frantically Googling my name. Within moments he found business articles featuring my company, though most photos showed me from a distance. "Here," he said, showing Natalie a blurry image from a technology conference. "This woman presenting the keynote speech. It's definitely Aria. How long have you known about Synergytech's contract proposal?" Diane finally asked. "I've been personally reviewing your partnership application for 6 weeks," I admitted. "I always investigate potential partners thoroughly, including their personal relationships and character." The family exchanged horrified glances as they realized everything they had said and done in my presence had been observed by the very person Natalie was trying to impress. "You've been spying on us," Natalie accused. "I've been getting to know the sister who wants to partner with my company," I corrected. "Character assessment is crucial for business relationships." Natalie's phone suddenly rang. She answered automatically and a voice came through the speaker. "Natalie, this is Rachel Torres from Digital Nexus. I'm calling to let you know that our CEO has completed her evaluation of the Synergytech partnership proposal. Unfortunately, after reviewing all available information, she's decided to decline the contract." "But why?" Madison gasped. The CEO was particularly concerned about character compatibility and Synergytech's approach to family relationships. Digital Nexus prioritizes partners who demonstrate consistent respect for others regardless of their perceived social or economic status. The call ended, leaving Natalie staring at her phone in shock. "You destroyed my career," she whispered. "You destroyed your own career," I replied firmly. "I simply observed how you treat people when you think they can't affect your success. Digital Nexus doesn't work with companies that lack basic human decency." "I need to understand something," my father finally said. "If you've been this successful for years, why didn't you tell us?" I leaned back in my chair. "I tried. Multiple times. Do you remember 3 years ago when I mentioned expanding my business operations? You assumed I meant adding a coffee bar to the bookstore. When I talked about my investment portfolio, Uncle Marcus laughed and said I probably had $50 in a savings account. Every time I shared good news, someone found a way to diminish it. Eventually I stopped trying." "We thought you were being optimistic about small business growth," Aunt Helen said weakly. "You thought I was delusional," I corrected. "You celebrated every one of Natalie's achievements with enthusiasm. When I shared similar information, you treated it like fantasy. This represents years of work and enormous financial investment," Uncle Marcus said, looking around. "You built all of this while we thought you were barely getting by." "I built this while you actively discouraged me from sharing my achievements," I clarified. Natalie looked up, her expression shifting to anger. "You deliberately sabotaged my career out of petty family resentment." "I evaluated a business partnership based on character and integrity," I said calmly. "Last night you offered me a minimum wage job as your assistant. You suggested I should be grateful to serve you. You announced that your baby would inherit everything worthwhile in the family because I hadn't contributed to success." The words hung in the air as Natalie realized how her statements sounded when repeated back. "We were trying to help you," Grandmother Claire said quietly. "You were trying to make yourselves feel superior," I replied gently. "Helping would involve asking what I needed. Instead, you decided what my problems were and imposed solutions without consulting me." "What happens now?" my father asked. "That depends on whether you're capable of treating me with the same respect you showed Natalie when you believed she was successful," I said. "Last night proved that your family affection is conditional on perceived social status." "But we love you, Aria," Diane said. "You love the idea of me fitting into your definition of acceptable family roles," I corrected. "You were perfectly willing to humiliate me publicly because you believed I was powerless to resist." "Can you forgive us?" my mother asked, tears forming. I studied her face. "Forgiveness requires acknowledgement of what actually happened and commitment to different behavior going forward." "What would that look like?" Uncle Marcus asked. "It means treating people with dignity regardless of their job titles or bank accounts," I explained. "It means recognizing that worth isn't determined by salary or professional achievements." Brandon had been quiet, but now he spoke hesitantly. "About those networking opportunities one mentioned last night. Were completely inappropriate," I finished. "Your suggestions had nothing to do with professional development and everything to do with exploiting someone you perceived as vulnerable." His face reddened. I apologize. That was wrong. Apologies are meaningful when they're followed by changed behavior, I replied. Natalie finally looked up. I don't know how to process this. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. Not wrong, I corrected. Just incomplete. You knew the family dynamics perfectly. You simply didn't realize that the sister you were treating poorly had power to affect your aspirations. Will you reconsider the Synergy Tech partnership? She asked quietly. I considered carefully. Digital Nexus partners with companies that demonstrate consistent ethical behavior. If Synergy Tech can prove that commitment over time, future opportunities might be possible. How would we prove that? Start with how you treat your current employees, especially in junior positions, I suggested. Then examine how you interact with service workers, vendors, and anyone who can't immediately benefit your career. What about the rest of us? And Helen asked. How do we rebuild relationships? Through consistent, respectful behavior over time, I replied. Demonstrate that you value me as a person rather than someone useful to your goals. Grandmother Claire struggled to stand with her cane, then slowly walked to where I sat. I'm ashamed of how we treated you last night. You deserved better from all of us, especially from me. Her apology carried weight because it came without excuses. I stood and embraced her carefully. Thank you, I replied. It means more than you know. Over the next hour we talked through years of accumulated misunderstandings. Some family members seemed genuinely committed to rebuilding relationships. Others appeared more concerned about potential financial opportunities than actual reconciliation. Natalie sat quietly, processing everything. Finally she spoke. I need to apologize for more than just last night. I've spent years competing with you instead of supporting you. I thought your lack of obvious success made my achievements look better. Success isn't a zero-sum game, I replied. Your achievements don't become less meaningful because other people also succeed. I know that now, she said. But I didn't then, and I let that ignorance damage our relationship. As the afternoon progressed, we began the difficult work of rebuilding family connections based on honesty rather than assumptions. There's something else you should know, I said as they prepared to leave. The literacy programs and community investments you read about last night, they include funding for local educational initiatives and small business development grants. You've been helping the community anonymously, my mother realized. I've been investing in the place I call home, I corrected. Success means nothing if it doesn't contribute to something larger than personal achievement. As they gathered their coats, the family dynamics had shifted dramatically. Instead of treating me as a charity case, they now approached me with respect. But more importantly, they had begun to understand that true success involves how you treat others when you believe they can't affect your life, not just how you perform when trying to impress someone powerful. Walking them to the door, I reflected on the strange satisfaction of watching people confront the consequences of their character choices. Natalie had lost a professional opportunity not because I was vindictive, but because she had revealed values incompatible with ethical partnership. The evening had taught me something valuable too. I had more power than I realized to demand better treatment from people who claimed to love me. Setting boundaries wasn't cruel. It was necessary for healthy relationships. As I locked the bookstore and returned to my office, I felt lighter than I had in years. The truth was finally visible, and whatever relationships survived would be built on solid foundations rather than false assumptions. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the opportunity to see themselves clearly and choose who they want to become next. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who treated you differently based on your perceived success? How do you think people should handle situations where family shows their true character? Please share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video if you found Aria's story meaningful. Subscribe for more stories about family dynamics, personal growth, and finding your strength in challenging relationships. Thank you for listening, and I hope your holidays are filled with genuine love and respect.